Ladies and gentlemen, Violet Games here. Today I'm going to be doing my first ever Paladin's Guide. We're going to be covering Meve today. I'm excited. I really enjoy playing Meve to an extent that I never thought possible. The more I played this game, the more I got addicted, so really happy to be here today talking about Meve. Now, the way this guide's going to be structured is I'm going to be going over cards, loadouts, store items. Then I'm going to give you some perspective on play styles for Meve, different strategies, and then I'm going to finish up with a review and then some controller tips. Maybe not in that order. We'll see how it goes. I don't know what I'm doing half the time anyhow. Look, I've been busy. It's been hard to do anything, so just be patient, you bastards. I don't make money. You guys, let's just get into it. Alright, let's discuss loadouts with Meve. Now, I want you to think of every loadout possible real quick that maybe you've constructed or your friends have constructed, and I want you to throw it out the window because it's pointless. Literally, this is the best loadout I've come across on the interwebs, and I've looked at a bunch of them. Yeah, I looked up guides too, judge me. And this one came from a content creator named Eden404. He's a wonderful guy. He made a wonderful Meve guide, really well composed. I like his style of commentary. He has less subscribers than me, so I feel like I need to shout him out for that. He did a wonderful video. 794 subscribers is not acceptable for someone of that caliber of content. So, let's move into the build. It's a sustain-based one. I think sustain Meve is by far the best, so any variation of these cards is going to do well for you. So say if you wanted to take something away from Walk It Off and put it into Chase, I don't think it would hurt you too much, but I think this spread is honestly the best. I've experimented with it myself. So, first off, we're going to put 3 points into Walk It Off. Heal for 120 health every second during Prowl. This is a great sustain. It's going to add functionality to Prowl. It's going to add more sustain to Prowl. It's nice. Next up, we have Street Runner, put up to 2. It only increases Prowl by a second, but I'm telling you guys, increasing Prowl by only a second feels a lot longer than it should. And not only that, but it's going to also play into our Walk It Off card. We're going to get an additional 120 health back as well. It feels a lot better than just having another point thrown into Prowl. Next up, we have Chase, marked up to level 3. So, increase your speed bonus of Prowl by 30%. This is going to allow you to move so quickly, it's going to allow you to get out of unfavorable fights, and it's also going to help you move across the field within seconds. Oh my gosh, guys, you're going to be moving so fast by the end of this guide, it's going to be ridiculous, and it's going to feel really good. Movement speed and Meve are really great. So, next card, we have Savagery 3. This is a wonderful sustain. Again, we're adding more sustain upon our other pieces of our abilities. So, Pounce heals you for 210 on a successful hit. This is really good if you're in a fight and things aren't going necessarily well. You can use Pounce not only as a way of dealing 500 damage, but as a way of receiving 210 health, which can help make the difference between you and your enemy dying. So it's really nice to have as a way to just make your character more sustainable in combat. And then finally, our throw-in card is going to be Street Cred. Increase your health by 50. Now, I used to max it out like I said, but again, sustain just works so much better than tanking, because why would you increase your health when you could receive more health throughout your abilities in your kit? So, receiving more health back as opposed to having more health is a lot better in the long run and is going to give you overall more sustain. So, let's move on to our legendary card. Now, the two I like the most are Rogue's Gambit and Artful Dodger. Though I'm going to put my argument in for Artful Dodger as being the best one. Activating 9 lives cleanses all crowd control and damage over time, effects, and heals for 500. So it's going to help cleanse some nonsense, right? And you're also going to get 500 health. But notice what it also does. It takes the one ability that we had that didn't get bonuses from our cards previously. So we added bonuses to our Prowl, and we added bonuses to our Pounce. And we even added a little bonus in for our health, but it was just 1 point. the only ability we haven't buffed yet is our 9 lives. So adding this card is like having a better version of Patch Up, which is just a card that is going to help you get even more heals from 9 lives. So overall, we're adding so much sustain to our character. We're going to live a lot longer. As long as you use the kit effectively, this loadout is just going to be a godsend. And you're going to do surprising things to your enemies. So this is really it for our loadout section. I think that when it comes to cards, this is the best way to run. Like I said, I know it's all opinion, it's all subjective, but you'll see why. It just feels really, really good to have a sustain Meve, and it's more forgiving in all honesty than any of the other setups. Let's talk about in-store purchases real quick. I recommend Nimble and Kill to Heal exclusively. Nimble because we're going to add more movement speed to Meve. Meve already being a fast character, adding additional 30% is going to feel really, really good as opposed to adding it to any other character in the game. Furthermore, it's going to add more effectiveness to our card in our loadout, which is Chase. It's going to add an additional 30% onto that. These do stack, and yes, it does feel ridiculous when you press Prowl for the first time after using Nimble for the first time. It's wonderful. Never have auto purchase on, guys. It's a death sentence, I'm telling you. Always turn auto purchase off. The loadouts they give you for each character are just terrible. So let's talk about Kill to Heal. It's just more sustain. We're putting more emphasis on the playstyle that we like to go with Meve. So it's just going to give us 300 to 900 health per kill. On a good match, you'll actually get all ranks of this, and when you get a lot of kills as Meve, when you become more effective with her, this ability becomes ridiculous. If you're really talented with Meve, this is going to allow you to do a lot more on the field once you get it up. And people, once you get it up. But yeah, people aren't going to know how to deal with you when you kill their friend and all of a sudden all your health's back already and you have sustain in your pocket and an additional 500 heal with 9 lives that's going to reset your cooldowns and allow you to engage them again. It's just ridiculous. I love it. Kill to Heal is wonderful. These are the in-store items I recommend purchasing. Outside of that, go with whatever you want. If you manage to get past Nimble and Kill to Heal in in-store purchases, good for you. Pick literally anything else. Probably more sustain is what I would go for. But yeah, that's what I recommend for store purchases. Alright, let's move into play styles for Meve. And no, I'm not talking about class. I know she's a flanker. I read the damn shit, okay? I know what she is. But flanker in this game can encompass a lot of different things. There's a lot of nuances between each character, and I think they can fulfill different roles at any given time. So for example, I think Eevee's more of a tank buster than Meve is, for example, because the type of damage she does is more reliable against tanks and can do a lot more to tanks than other flanks can. So let's move into Meve's role, shall we? I think one role Meve fulfills really well is an assassin. She can pick off isolated targets, usually encompassing the role of DPS, sniper, and some of the medics within the game as well. Usually, characters with a medium-sized health pool are no problem for Meve. If their health pool is around 2,000, she can usually throw a few volleys of daggers and kill them with ease, also making sure that she combos her sustain abilities as well to guarantee the kill. Make sure you approach the enemy from a flank route's position, and you should be able to approach them from either vertical points or on the ground due to your fast mobility. So you should always be able to engage the target. To guarantee your rate of success, though, make sure your target is focused on something else at the time of the engagement. If Victor is looking down his sight, it is very easy to pick him off. Same thing with Tyra. If Tyra's throwing Molotovs everywhere and has used her mark already, it's very easy for you to move in on her and get the kill as well, especially if she's taken up some damage. Next role you can fulfill as Meve is support damage. Jump into fights after they start and focus on key targets. So you'll be in the flank routes like you always should as Meve, and you'll see a fight go on between your team and the enemy team. From here you can take a point or a vertical point from range or any other position from range and just kind of lob in damage, or if you see a target start to get low, you can kind of be an opportunist and run in and guarantee that that kill happens. being Meve as well allows you to run down targets that are low health that try to evade. So if a character is trying to use an ability to escape, you can prevent that from happening by using your abilities like Prowl or the Quick Dash, or just, taking a position ahead of time to cut them off. So support damage works really well for Meve. Also, if an enemy is focused or locked in on one of your teammates, you can essentially go right up behind them and get free damage. So support damage works really well, and it's going to help your team succeed in a team fight if everyone's grouped up that tightly. Now, you should keep in mind that if the enemy team and your team are grouped up really closely and they're lobbing out a ton of damage in the middle of the field, don't run in front of anybody at any given time as Meve. You don't want to take heaps of damage from 4 or 5 characters because you're a flank and your health pool isn't that high, so you will die more often than not. And smart enemies will know if a flank enters the middle of a fight, they should be focused on because of their high damage and the fact that they have a low health pool and are easy to kill. Getting kills with your team helps them accrue credits, and elimination will be spread out in currency across all people participating. So, don't feed yourself to the enemy. It's really bad for you. Credits can help enemies build their characters to have advantages that your team might not have if they keep succeeding. Don't be a part of the problem. So, 3. The role you can kind of fulfill as a flank yourself is a counter flank. Now, if your team is failing to address flankers on your team, then that might have to become your job as a flanker. You can hide right near the doorway of like a flank route, wait for the enemy team to start, and if you land one volley preemptively, that's almost guaranteeing a kill. Making sure you land other volleys and taking some damage before you use your pounce is mostly advisable. But Meve is very good at shredding down some of the really threatening flanks in the game. For example, within a few volleys, she can actually kill Skye outright, and that's a big deal, because Skye does absurd damage to, like, everyone. It's kind of ridiculous, to be honest. Skye's kind of a different entity within herself, but because she has such a low health pool, Meve can really dispatch her quickly, given that she has a 900 DPS. It's really phenomenal. And now finally, one role that you can kind of fulfill if your team's running this type of composition is a double flank. If you're kind of insecure as Meve to start out, there's nothing wrong with double flanking. Usually, a team will have 2 flanks tops, and what you can do is, if you want to follow that tank around and kind of see what they do, you can. Additionally, you guarantee the success if you ever run into an isolated target. Furthermore, you can kill more isolated targets in varieties of roles than you could if you were just solo flanking. So for example, if you find a tank completely by themselves, you can actually have a bigger chance of taking that tank out because you're 2 flanks against 1 person, you get what I'm saying? And also, it'll help you really trap certain enemies and also engage in some group fights as well if you manage to focus the same target at once. Double flanking is kind of like flanking, but with a bit more advantages, that being friends. So that's all I really have to talk about as far as playstyles. Be an opportunist, what the fuck? Be an opportunist and take advantage of any opportunity you see fit. For example, you can be primary DPS if the enemy's team damage or tanks don't know how to aim vertically. Be sure to talent scout your enemies and pick your fights that way if you need to as well. That's all the advice I have for you on playstyles. And yeah, let's move on to the next segment. Alright, let's move into some console tips really quick. When you're playing Meve, there are some console-specific things that I want you guys to be aware of. Number 1, use alternative bindings as well as controller mods. So first off, if you're going to be playing Meve, you need an alternative way to jump. The X button is not going to do it. You're not going to be able to jump and aim at the same time, and that's a huge disadvantage, given that you need to be a vertical attacker if you're playing Meve. You need to be spamming the jump and being really jukey and annoying. That's kind of the whole point of playing the character. And it can really throw off some of your enemies, especially if they use lower sensitivities on their controllers as well. I highly recommend you get something like a Scuff or the Collective Mind Strike Pack if you're on a budget to really add back pedals to your controller so that you can bind them to those. I use the Collective Mind Strike Pack myself, and you're purchasing an advantage. I'm just going to be straight up honest. I also recommend Control Freaks if you want to extend your mods and also run higher sensitivities. Moving on, you should change your sensitivity. That's the second piece of advice I can give you. The default sensitivity in a lot of these games do not cut it, in my opinion. I recommend something on the higher end just because it gives you more time to turn around. So the higher your sensitivity, the more options you're going to have in terms of being able to turn around quicker. Also aim up faster, so if you realize, oh, there's someone shooting from me from above, you can respond to them a little bit quicker. And additionally, the Control Freaks are going to help you aim with higher sensitivities as well. I highly recommend you practice with sensitivities. And there's no magic sensitivity, guys. I'm not going to be that guy that is like, oh, you need this specific exact sensitivity. That doesn't exist. People who argue for that are insane. There's so many discussions out there about sensitivity. I think what matters is what can you hit with. So keep that in mind when you go for this. Don't be asking me for my sensitivity thinking that that's going to save your game. It's not. So let's talk about the final piece of advice. Practice ahead of time. When you are playing Meve, guys, Meve is a high skill cap character. She goes way up there in the skill gap. Cap or gap, I don't know which one's more appropriate. I don't think it's really relevant. But Meve is not pick up and play friendly. She really isn't. You do need to go into a practice range setting, and you need to screw around with different sensitivities. You need to screw around with different button layouts if you don't have modded controllers, and you just need to learn and familiarize yourself with her kit, especially her daggers. Her daggers require a lot of skill. You have to aim ahead of certain targets. There's nuances between there because certain targets move faster than others, so you're going to have to pre-aim ahead of a target even more if they're moving faster, and at what angle are they moving. There's a lot of little niche things you have to learn about the daggers to land them on a consistent basis. And the best way to do that to start off is to go into practice range and just practice on the moving targets there, jump around the targets, see if you can keep your crosshair on a target while you are jumping around them, above them. You know, really get a feel for Meve's daggers, guys. You need to practice more and more and more. And now, finally, the last one is understand that you're going to be running this on a trial by fire basis. You're not going to know how to deal with every single character in the game the first time you encounter them, so understand that there's going to be some growing pains when you're playing Meve and learning the daggers. For example, there's a dragon character that kind of acts like Thera. Learning to hit him took me some time, and I still am not really perfect with it today. But that internal progression is one of the reasons I really enjoy playing Meve. So if you're not that type of person, if you can't hit with the daggers, don't bother playing this hero. Alright, let's briefly gloss over team composition, because I only really think that there's one condition where it's not acceptable to play Meve. So far in casual, it seems to me that the only lose condition for playing Meve seems to be if there's more than 2 flanks. Usually, if you have one flank on your team already, playing Meve is usually safe, or if you have no flanks, it's definitely okay at that point, because you're fulfilling a role that no other character can. But having 2 flanks on the team doesn't seem to hurt, as long as you have a front line and a primary DPS. Usually supports come and go, it seems to be on the casual servers anyhow. Maybe it gets more intense and competitive, I don't know, I don't have a bunch of characters level 4 yet. I'm working on it. I've just been playing way too much Meve because I'm having too much damn fun. But yeah, as long as you have only 2 flanks on your team at a given time, it's usually safe to pick Meve, unless the team is lacking damage or maybe a frontliner. It really, just play Meve at your leisure as long as there's not 2 flanks. That seems to be the rule of thumb that I've stuck with, and it's worked out for me. That's really all I gotta say. Alright, really quickly, let's talk about how Meve matches up against the rest of the cast in the game. I think Meve, for the most part, is a double-edged sword when it comes to basically every DPS in the game, as well as every flanker. Both characters seem to have equal opportunity to kill the other. There's not really a lot of difference in between there other than skill gap, for example. Like, for example, most snipers don't know how to shoot on console, so it's very easy to pick them off, but a good sniper could kill you just as fast as you could kill them. Same thing with flanks like Skye. you could kill Skye really quickly, but Skye can kill you really quickly, depending on the situation. So just keep that in mind. The only real 1v1s you don't really want to get into as Meve are with high health pool targets. Seris, any of the tanks in the game, Fernando. It just doesn't really feel right. Granted, you can chip them down from a distance. I'm just kind of referencing, in a 1v1 situation, who's optimal against who, like in a rock, paper, scissors sort of setting. Really, the only thing you need to look out for that is a direct counter to you, in my opinion, is characters with a lot of meat on him. Torvald probably being the number one because he has absurd health pool. He has an auto-aim gadget, which for a Juki character, being able to automatically hit them and guarantee damage is a big threat to you, especially when you have a lot less health. Though you should be able to get out of situations where Torvald would want to take advantage of you because of your mobility and the rest of your kit, really. So that's really all I have to say for matchups. You can kill most of the targets in the game, including some of the supports as well. Just avoid large health pool targets because they are really, really threatening to me. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I need to wrap this up really quick, so let's get into the verdict. I think Meve's a great character. I think there aren't a lot of things holding Meve back because of her great sustain, her high mobility, her ability to get in and out of any engagement that she wants gives her a lot of flexibility. As long as you're running with the right team composition, I don't think Meve is ever a bad pick. However, one thing holds Meve back as being like a perfect hero. I think that it's the low health pool, and I think that it's also the fact that her skill gap is just really high. You need to practice with this character a lot to stay good with her. And going from different games, like I often do, it can be difficult to get back into Meve sometimes, and I kind of have to take a second to warm myself up before I go into any serious engagements. So, Meve, 100% viable. I think Flanker feels really good in Paladins. I really enjoy playing other Flankers as well, so I'll be covering them hopefully soon. But until then, this is Violent Games Piss and Waff. I hope you learned something from this, guys. I think Paladins is a great game, and there's really no console representation whatsoever. I hope I at least help the problem, even though I'm a basic bitch. I don't have a lot of fancy editing shit or a lot of time on my hands working full time. You get how it is. Violent Games Piss and Waff.